Hi Stampers, this is Dena from PocketFullOfStamps.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. What I'm going to show you today is how I made this really pretty watercolor looking card. If you can believe it, this is made from rubber stamps. And I just used three images to create this. I'm going to show you how I did it. The stamp set is a new one that we have called Waterfront. And I have to admit that when I first saw it, I was not overly impressed. However, I have seen some really, truly amazing things done with it. There's an Australian demonstrator named Linda who has done some really, really awesome things with this. And what I'm showing you today is actually something that I learned from her, from watching her. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, and let's show you how I did this. I wanted to have this real sharp edge here. So I started by taping my watercolor paper onto our little foam mat here before I stamped it. And then when I'm all done, I can peel this up and I'll have this real nice crisp edge here along the edge. So as I said, I'm only using 3 stamps from this stamp set. I'm using the mountains and the trees. And then this is actually, it can be land, it can be sky. I'm going to actually use it for clouds. It could be water. It could be a lot of different things, just depending on what you need it for. The colors that I'm going to use for this are smoky slate, a little tiny bit of Cajun craze, some pink pirouette in the sky up here, some soft sky also for the sky, and then always artichoke. When I was looking at my photograph, those are the colors that I saw in the picture, so that's what I used. I'm going to start out here with the smoky slate. You can see I still have some green here on my... Alright, to do my mountains, the first thing I did was when I looked at my picture, this mountain here was my focal point. So that's where I started. And I wanted that to be really light. So I actually stamped this off twice and started about 2/3 the way up my picture, or at my piece of paper here, and stamped it. Then I inked it up again and kind of brought my mountain range down a little bit. Then filled in here. Wanted to keep this, I want to keep this one really high and have the rest of them be low. And then you just kind of fill in with some more color here. And it looks like I had a little bit of darker one here too, but I don't know. I definitely don't want it to be too dark. Okay, now this is the trick to this. Once you get some ink laid down here, you want to take an aqua painter and get some color going here. I had a rag here, I don't know where it is, so I'm just going to do it over here. And you want to blend out those lines and soften it up. That's what's going to make it look like a watercolor. So you'll just go over your stamped image until it looks the way that you want it to look. Okay. You want to leave a little bit of that shading in there because that's what's going to give you the different definitions in the different mountains and shading. It looks like valleys and... Okay. Now in my picture, this was another little mountain range, a lot lower obviously than the one with the snow on it, but it was green, it was tree covered. So I wanted to add some of that. So for that, I went with some Always Artichoke. And I actually used the same mountain range. And I wanted to start by stamping off some of it. And this one I kind of stamped a couple of times. And you can see where it's already hitting that water. A little bit darker in there too. Okay, and again, go with my aqua painter and brush out the lines. Fill in any holes. Okay. I've created another little mountain range. Now, I wanted to do my sky next. I don't want to stamp anything else until this is dry. Oh, you can see I'm bleeding here a little bit too, and that's okay. I'll just brush that in there a little bit. All right, so for my sky, while I was waiting for this to dry, this actually is working out really well because where it's bleeding up in there, that looks like a little bit of tree line. For my sky, I want it to be pretty light, so I'm taking my soft sky and just adding a ton of water, and I'm going to really softly brush some color on here, get rid of the white. I know my pen looks a little awkward here because I'm trying to stay out of the camera. Okay, so I brushed the whole thing with the blue. Then I'm going to go back to my green here while I'm waiting for that blue to dry. And I'm going to get a little bit of green, just I want this to be really soft. I'm just going to kind of brush in this whole area, this whole white area down here. Okay, then also in my photograph, I noticed that there was some trees that the sun was actually hitting them, but it looked a little Cajun crazy to me. So I actually did try to stamp some Cajun craze trees, but they kind of looked like dead trees, so I ended up stamping over them. So I decided for this one instead, I'm just going to actually brush a little bit of Cajun craze into this, so it'll show through the trees a little bit. But it won't actually be the trees. And that's all I'm going to do. It's just a little tiny bit. All right, now I'm going to go back up to the sky. And again, in my photograph, you could see where the sun was either setting, I think, and there was just some really pretty pink in the sky. So I'm going to add a little bit of pink just kind of in here. And you can see my paper starting to buckle a little bit. Having it taped down helps, and then I'm going to show you another little trick here too when I get done to kind of help it flatten out a little bit. All right, then in my photograph, this side of the sky was a little bit darker. So I took this piece and I inked it up again in the slate, but I wanted it to be really, really, really light. I stamped it off a couple times and just, oops, see, that's even a little bit darker, but we'll wash it out a little bit. I'm not too worried. Okay. So stamp that up there and then go over it with my pen. I'm really going to wash a lot of that out of there. And every time you do this, it's going to look a little bit different because I can already see it's looking a little bit different than my last one did. But that's the fun of it. Okay, now I'm going to peel this off of my mat here. And I am really impatient. I don't like to wait for things. So I want this to be good and dry here before I stamp my trees. So I'm going to take my heat tool and dry it. And if you dry it from the top, see how it's starting to curl the other way now? You can flip it over and dry it some more. That's curling a lot more that way. Turn it back over. See how it's flattening out? Okay. All right, now we're going to add some trees. So, again, I looked at my photograph and I could see where the trees were higher on this end. It was like they were up on a mountainside here and then came down across the side. So that is what I did. And I just stamped trees, stamped trees, stamped trees, stamped trees. The ones down here you can't really see as being trees anymore, but you know they are. You get the impression that they are trees. So I started up here at the top and just just keep filling in. And see how you can see the little bit of Cajun craze in there, but it doesn't look like dead trees. The thing you need to do with this stamp set really is just get it out and play with it. I think the more you play with it, the more creative you're going to be able to be with it. Okay, so there I've got my trees. And the last thing I want to do is add snow. But here again, I wanted to wait until those trees were really good and dry. So I'm going to put some heat on this ink again just to make sure they're really good and dry. All right, and I'm actually going to take my tape off here now too. When you peel your tape off, you just got to go real nice and slow. But see that real nice straight line that you're going to get there? And you do want to go a little bit slow so you don't tear your paper. And I still have a little bit of bend in my paper, but by the time I adhere it to my cardstock to finish it, you'll take the rest of that bend out of there. Okay, so to do my snow, I wasn't really quite sure how to make it look like snow. I didn't have a white pen, so I just decided that I was going to try embossing it. And I embossed it with my fine tip glue, which it does something kind of funky here when you do it, but just keep playing with it. It works out. So what I did here is just kind of followed my mountain here a little bit. And you don't want to fill it all the way in, because if you look at a mountain with snow, it's not, well, sometimes it's fully covered. We have a really pretty mountain range out here called Mount Shasta, and we can see it from our house on a clear day. And it looks so pretty. It actually looks a lot like this mountain. Just kind of painting in the glue here where I want it to be. And I gotta see in the light where I have it. Okay, so once you get it on there how you want it to look, what you're gonna do is put your embossing powder on and heat it up. And you do want to make sure that your paper is all the way dry before you add your embossing powder to it, because it'll stick anywhere where it's wet. Okay, can you see where it's stuck on there? I actually contemplated just leaving it just like that. Maybe I'll do that again on another one, but for this one we're going to heat it. Because I do want to show you what this does. You kind of have to be careful because that glue, when it gets hot, is going to bubble up. So you kind of have to put heat on it and take it off and put it on and take it off until it's all heated, until it's all embossed. It's starting to bubble over here. It actually gives you a really neat texture, but you just don't want it to bubble up too much. Sorry if I move the camera there. Your image looks like that. Then you can just add whatever sentiment to it that you want. I just wanted a Happy Father's Day card, but you could use these cards for any number of greetings. But that is how you do a watercolor card with the Waterfront stamp set. I hope that you have learned something fun and different, and I hope that you'll try it. Until next time, happy stamping!